You're getting rejected on cold calls because you've already lost the first 4 seconds. In a blink of an eye, that's all it takes. People make a subconscious judgment in the blink of an eye. If you don't establish rapport, meaning trust that you are the authority, if you don't establish certainty in those first 4 seconds, you know what your prospect does? He listens to you like you're Charlie Brown's teacher. Here's the good news. There is a proven script that makes those first few seconds work in your favor. And I'm going to walk you through this step by step. In sales, the very first breath you take on a call determines whether you're positioned as the authority or you get dismissed as another person interrupting their day. The first 4 seconds aren't about clever words. They're about conveying certainty in your tonality, confidence in your pacing, and the micro agreements you create with the simplest introduction. Rapport isn't about small talk. It's not about being liked. It's about stepping into the role of the originator of this dynamic. In every interaction with human beings, something magical happens at an unconscious level. One person is seen as the originator or the authority in that dynamic, in that relationship, in that in that exchange. The other person positions themselves as the subject. Now, there's some of this dynamic is already programmed. It's programmed in our mind. If we see a police officer or pretty much anybody in uniform, they're the authority. You see a doctor, they're the authority. You go into a law firm and you walk in and there's a big wooden desk. The person on the other side of it, they're the originator. They're the authority. So stepping into your role as the originator, as the authority immediately takes your prospect and makes them feel that their next natural role is to play the role of the subject, to let you lead, at least for the next 5 seconds. And that's all you need. See, when you lead in with their name and yours with absolute certainty, you're anchoring yourself as the authority, as the originator. If you sound rushed, if you sound needy, if you're using hedgy language or you're hesitant, the subconscious message that you send is that you don't believe in yourself, or maybe you don't believe in your offer. And when you sound calm and measured and focused, you establish trust, even before words register inside the prospect's mind. A simple upswing on your name as you introduce yourself, this is Paul, as if you're asking a question, is enough to create that first micro agreement. This isn't trickery. You're holding space for them to say, yeah, I'm here. Let's continue. This is Paul. See, when you do that uptone swing, this is Paul, like in a question, they hear it as a question. They don't hear it as a declarative statement. This is Paul. This is Paul. With the declarative statement, I'm meant to evaluate right now, yes or no. But if it's a question, this is Paul, I don't want to look foolish not knowing the answer. And so you know what I do? I play along, at least for the next 4 seconds. Yeah, hey, Paul. Like, I'm supposed to know who this person is. This is Paul. This is Paul with the Martinelli sales method. How's it going today? Just those 2 upswings cause a disruption in their subconscious mind. They begin to search. I should know this person. Maybe I should know this person. What's the consequence of me playing along as though I do know them? The consequence is fairly low. But what if I do know them and I blow it? The consequence could be really high. If this is somebody of importance that may have influence, I certainly don't want to offend them. This isn't trickery. It's very real science of influence. I'll never forget when I was a janitor just making $20,000 a year. I was working, 60, 80 hours a week. And I'd walk into a building, mop bucket in hand. And in those first 4 seconds, it told people everything. If I came in rushed and slouched and unsure, I was treated just like the janitor. But if I walked in calm, with certainty, shoulders back, and greeted people like I belonged there, everything shifted. It wasn't about what I said. It was about how I carried myself. And that lesson is true on any cold call. The way you sound in those first 4 seconds tell the prospect if you are the authority or just another interruption in their day. After establishing instant rapport with your quick introduction, you must immediately frame the reason for the call. See, this purpose statement is where most salespeople lose authority because they sound vague, generic, even apologetic. Your job is to frame the reason for the call with a very clear, specific reason that lets the prospect know that you are going to respect their time. This is where the mystery tonality works in your favor. It's just a slight drop in pitch and a little slower pacing makes people pay attention. You're not tricking them. What you're doing is you're signaling to the programming of their subconscious mind that this call matters. See, when you state the reason for the call, Jim, the reason for the call is what you're doing is you're removing the guessing game. This is Paul with the Martinelli Sales Method. How's it going today? Going great. The reason for the call, now there's no more guessing game. There's no uncertainty. I don't want uncertainty. I want to fill the gap of uncertainty with certainty. So I want to tell right out of the gate the reason for the call. And what you're doing is you're guiding the energy of the conversation towards a constructive goal. And this prevents the prospect from just hanging up or building a wall. You want to always position the frame so it serves the prospect, not you. Instead of saying the reason for the call is I want to tell you about my product, you want to say the reason for the call is you requested some information and I wanted to reach out to you personally before sending something generic. The reason for the call is you had filled out something online about wanting to know about our sales program. Does that ring a bell? I wanted to reach out to you personally before sending you something generic. Does that ring a bell? See, that's how you go from serving rather than pressuring. I remember when I was getting bids on refinishing the floors in one of our buildings. 2 vendors show up. The first one hemmed and hawed. They gave me, this vague rundown of what they were going to do. The second one looked at me right in the eye and said, Paul, here's exactly what we're going to do with these marble floors. And here's why it's going to last longer than anybody else's work. You know who got the job? The one who framed with clarity. Cold calling is no different. The moment you say the reason for the call is, and you say that with authority, you've already separated yourself from every other salesperson who sounds uncertain, who is walking around like a wandering generality. Now, I want to pause here for a second. I want to give you something that will make this really stick for you. I've put together a free cold call framework that's specifically designed to help you learn the exact script that I've been walking you through here, step by step. It includes the tonalities, the phrasing, and the sequence, so you never have to guess what to say next. If you've ever hung up the phone saying, I blew it again, this guide is going to change that. It's designed so that you can literally practice each step and anchor it into your muscle memory. That way, when you pick up the phone, you're not winging it. You're leading with absolute certainty, with rapport, with authority, with structure. Now, the link is downloaded right there in the description below. I had my team put it there. So go and grab it right now, and let's keep building on the mastery that it takes to possess this. Once you've set the frame, your role shifts to this now intelligence gathering phase. This isn't just about collecting data. It's about deepening rapport by listening and asking questions. See, when you ask purposeful questions, you're telling the prospect that their world matters, and more importantly, I understand your world. I'm asking relevant questions. I'm asking intelligent questions. I'm asking questions that somebody who is working on the solution of your problem would be asking you. See, questions should start kind of with the least invasive and move progressively deeper. So, how big is your team right now? That opens the door. What's been the biggest challenge keeping momentum? That kind of uncovers pain. What would success look like for you? That invites vision. See, you want to activate listening in your sales process. Listening is a superpower. And when you can mirror back key phrases that the prospect uses, this isn't parroting. What you're doing is you're building certainty that you understand them. I'm going to tell you something that's really powerful. People cannot hear until they've been heard. When people feel heard, they lower their defenses. And if you're going to just come in and talk and tell them features and benefits and features and benefits and features and benefits and not listen to their story and not listen to the context of their problem and not listen to why this problem exists, how it started, what it's costing them. If you're not asking them those kinds of questions, they don't feel heard. And people who don't feel heard don't hear. It's that simple. You want to really listen in. And you want them to know that you're listening. You want to be sending signals that you're listening. Remember, sales is the transference of emotion. That means that every buying decision is not made from the logical mind, it's made from the emotional mind. They make the decision to buy or not buy on the emotional level, and then they justify it with logic. So sales is the transference of emotion, and the primary emotion to influence somebody is certainty. If you come in with certainty and then you layer it with empathy, you give a prospect an emotional permission to open up. Certainty without empathy feels cold. It feels arrogant. Empathy without certainty sounds weak. But together, they create trust and authority. I'll never forget sitting down with the great Les Brown decades ago when I was in the early stages of working in the speaking and training industry. And I kept jumping in with my ideas. Finally, Les kind of stopped me and said, Paul, you're not listening to me. You're listening to reply. It hit me like a ton of bricks. See, that's how it is with sales as well. When you ask a prospect a really good question and they open up, that's gold. But if you then rush to say whatever you want to say, whatever you've memorized next, you ambush the sale, ABC, always be closing, and you rush into the pitch, you've just told them that you care more about your solution than their story, than their problem. The fastest way to build trust is to close your mouth and listen. And I mean really listen, and let them know that they're being heard. Yeah. Tell me more. And then what? Really? Let me write that down. When they know that you're really listening, that you're being intentional, and that they feel heard, they open up. Every cold call comes with objections. That's natural. Objections are not rejection. They are a trained response. And I'm going to just tell you, objections is a request. If an objection is a complaint, I can tell you this. Every complaint is a request. In every complaint, there's a request. You go to a restaurant and somebody complains that the soup is cold. What's it a request for? Hot soup. Every complaint is a request. All objections are a request for more certainty. When someone says, I'm not sure, let me think about it. What they mean is you haven't helped me feel certain yet. Let me think about it. I don't have enough certainty to make a decision. The worst thing you can do at that point is argue or defend or even criticize. Oh, come on, Jim. Aren't you the decision maker in the family? Instead, a soft deflect with calm authority. Just like let it go right by. And a simple line, totally fair. Totally fair. So when they say, you know what, I need to think about it. Hey, totally fair. Just out of curiosity, does the idea make sense? Just out of curiosity, does the idea make sense? See, what you're doing is you're inviting them back to agreement. Totally get it. Let me just ask you this. Does the idea make sense to you? I mean, do you like the idea? Totally fair. Somebody says, I got to talk to my wife. Totally fair. When I'm making decisions like this, I absolutely want to run things by my wife, Holly, too. I completely get it. Let me just, out of curiosity, let me just ask you this. Do you like the idea? Does the program make sense to you? Yeah, no, absolutely. Exactly. And see, what I've done is I've moved them right back into a micro agreement, and it restores momentum and gives me now the opportunity to build more certainty. And I'm going to use tonality with intentionality. Tonality with intentionality. Absolute certainty. That tonality says, I know this will help. Reasonable man is, hey, I get it. This is simple. Utter sincerity says, hey, look, I'm telling you the truth. Hey, look, I get it. When I'm making decisions like this, I want to run it by my wife, Holly. I want to run it by my wife too. You know what? That's true. I would never be making a $5,000 or $10,000 decision without at least running it by my wife. I don't have to ask permission, but out of respect, I'm going to run it by my wife. So I'm telling, when I say, hey, look, I absolutely get it. When I'm making decisions like this, I want to run it by my wife, Holly, too. But let me ask you this. Do you like the idea? Does the idea make sense to you? Yeah, no, I understand. Exactly. Absolute certainty. Exactly. I'm going to stack the tonalities. And when you do that, you will just see and hear an emotional channel open up. And then when you loop back, I'm not going to add pressure. They don't need pressure. You know what they need? Clarity. I'm going to add clarity by painting more of a picture of how the offer really is the perfect solution for their problem. And if they hesitate on timing, I'm going to simply reset the frame and I'm going to reinvite them in. See, certainty isn't about being pushy. It's about being unshakable in your belief that this solution not only works, it matters for you. The close isn't about tricking someone into saying yes. Look, if you have to trick them to say yes, you're going to have to trick them to say yes and yes and yes and yes. It's, when you trick somebody into saying yes, it is the recipe and all the ingredients for buyer's remorse. See, it's about removing all of those last traces of uncertainty. When you invite the next step, you're simply asking them to align their decision with the certainty that you've been building all along. Now, in order to move the process forward, use a really soft ask like this. Would tomorrow or Thursday be better for a quick 15-minute overview? Hey, I need a little bit more time. I want to talk to my wife. Totally get it. Totally get it. Would tomorrow or Thursday be better for a quick 15-minute overview with Holly, with your wife? See, this frames the close as a really natural step. It's not a leap. You're kind of guiding. You're not pushing. When prospects hesitate, a really powerful thing to do is to lower the consequence, lower the action threshold. Instead of asking for a really big commitment, invite them into a smaller one. How about we start with just a really quick walkthrough so that you can see this for yourself? How about we just start with a quick walkthrough? I'm man of reason, reasonable man tonality. How about we just do this? How about we just start with a quick walkthrough so that you can see that it's a fit for you? There's no consequence in that. The decision is safe and it doesn't dilute your authority when you do it. Remember, certainty is contagious. If you believe deeply in the value that you bring, your prospect will borrow that belief until it becomes their own. I had a client who was dragging their feet on making a big commitment with like a multiple stage kind of proposal. Instead of pressing them, I said, look, why don't we do this? Why don't we just start with a 2-day workshop? Why don't we just start with a 2-day workshop? No pressure beyond that. No pressure beyond that. Why don't we do this? Why don't we just start with a 2-day workshop? No pressure beyond that. Let's just have you experience the program. See, that small step, that first yes, led to a 6-figure contract down the road. The close isn't about pushing someone past the line. It's about lowering the threshold so that that next step feels safe while still holding certainty and authority. That's how to close. It's not about forcing a decision. It's by making a very step-by-step process seem natural and logical and emotionally safe. If you've been struggling on cold calls, it's not because you don't know enough about your product. It's because you haven't learned to lead with certainty. Cold calling isn't about convincing strangers. It's about mastering and developing real rapport in those first few seconds, listening with intent and holding space for the decision. Now look, before you go, don't forget to download the Cold Call Framework Guide. It breaks down every step I just taught you: rapport, framing, listening, objections, tonality, so that you can practice them in real time and never lose another prospect in those first 4 seconds. And if you're ready to take this deeper, the next video is exactly what you need. It's called Making Follow-Up Calls to All of Your Customers. Let me tell you, the fortune isn't just in the first call. It's in the follow-up. Go watch that video, and I'll see you there.